different. I just want to know what you suggest, because back then, when I was in your position, I was suggesting we bomb Belgrade. I was suggesting that we send American pilots in and blow up all the bridges on the Duran. I was suggesting we take out his oil supplies. I was suggesting very specific action. And isn't it interesting that
I had to get another video out today because we have some news that I want to get out to everyone. And you just saw a video, a segment of Joe Biden in 1999, bragging that he was the one that suggested the bombing of Belgrade. And that was a bombing that took place in 1999 of Belgrade, the capital of Serbia. It was 78 days of NATO bombing of a European capital city. So when Olaf Scholz went to Moscow before the Russians launched their military operation, and the Chancellor of Germany actually was stupid enough to tell Russian President Vladimir Putin that we have never had a war in Europe like what was about to happen in Ukraine, or what was possibly about to happen in Ukraine, because this was before the operation was launched. Well, it just goes to show how ignorant and stupid he was when making those comments. But there you have Biden, then Senator Biden, bragging about this bombing. 78 days from the 24th of March to the 10th of June, and that included the Russian Orthodox, the Greek, Russian, Eastern Orthodox Easter, Serbian Orthodox Easter, which is called Pascha. And that included bombing Belgrade even during Pascha. I actually visited Belgrade a few months back, and actually saw some of the buildings that have been preserved by, they've preserved the bombing that were ruined. I believe it was the building of the Ministry of Communications or Commerce. Anyone from Belgrade, from Serbia, correct me if I'm wrong. I think those were the buildings that were preserved. You could actually see what NATO did to those buildings. They were not rebuilt, so the bombing of those buildings is there for everyone to see. If you go to Belgrade and you visit Belgrade, which is a beautiful city, by the way, a fantastic city, and I recommend if you have the chance to visit Belgrade, definitely do it. But why do I bring up this video? Well, this video has gone viral. It has gone viral now in Russia. It has gone viral in China. It's gone viral in China. Now, Russia, you could say, okay, I can see why the Russians want this video to go viral. It'll serve domestic propaganda purposes, and it'll paint Joe Biden in a certain light. But the fact that it's going viral in China is really interesting, because the Chinese came out with this statement because the U.S. has been pressuring China to turn their back on Russia. And Alexander has done a countless amount of videos where he's chronicling how the U.S. diplomacy, the Biden diplomacy, the Blinken diplomacy, is working overtime to try and drive a wedge between Russia and China, and they're failing at each turn. They continue to fail in moving China away from Russia. And the video that I did this morning had a tweet from a well-known Chinese journalist who said something along the lines of, yeah, let me turn my back on my friend so that you can then go after me, so that then you can attack me. And that's how China's looking at this. China understands that if they were to turn their back on Russia, which they're not, but if they were, well, then it would only be a matter of time before all the sanctions and this regime change dream, this regime change mission that's now trying to be executed in Russia was turned towards China. It would only be a matter of time before everything that they're doing to Russia, they would do to China. And this has nothing to do with the conflict in Ukraine. And I want to stress that. The sanctions that were placed on Russia, I believe, would have happened with or without Ukraine. I believe they would have gone after the central bank. I believe they would have embargoed Russian oil and gas. I think all of these things would have happened with or without what happened in Ukraine. But anyway, China is giving a lot of pushback, and I'm really starting to believe that the Biden White House is stupid enough to open up a second front in this economic war, not only on Russia, but on China. And even NATO, and I'm going to read this to you, I've got it pulled up on my phone here, even NATO is warning China. NATO is warning China to turn their back on Russia. And let me read this to you. This is from the Chinese government. It's a readout, which says, according to reports, NATO Secretary General John Stoltenberg said yesterday that any support to Russia, military support or any other type of support, would actually help Russia conduct a brutal war against an independent sovereign nation, Ukraine, and help them to continue to wage war, which is causing death, suffering, and an enormous amount of destruction. He also claimed that China has an obligation as a member of the UN Security Council to actually support and uphold international law and join the rest of the world condemning Russia's invasion. And this is what China answered with regards to John Stoltenberg and NATO's statement. They said, we have taken note of relevant remarks. Chinese people can fully relate to the pains and sufferings of other countries because we will never forget who had bombed our embassy in the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. We need no lecture on justice from the abuser of international law. As a Cold War remnant and the world's largest military alliance, NATO continues to expand its geographical scope and range of operations. What kind of role it has played in world peace and stability, NATO needs to have good reflection. That is some statement coming out of China. And the reason they made that statement with regards to Yugoslavia is that on May 7th, I believe it was May 7th, during the 78-day bombing campaign, which Biden said he had suggested, that he was pushing for, Senator Biden at the time, well, they bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. They bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade, and China has never forgotten this, nor will they ever forget this. And so that's why they're throwing this right back at Stoltenberg's face. And the reason I'm talking about this is because, you know, in the video I did this morning, I said, is the U.S. really crazy enough to start sanctioning China? Are they really crazy enough to open up another economic front against China? And I'm starting to believe that they just might be. You know, the Biden White House, they have no reverse gear. They have no reverse gear, and it looks like momentum is just carrying them towards disaster. Unless this is the plan, unless they're actively working on systems collapse. Because you have to actively want systems collapse to go after China now. I mean, they've got it with Russia. You've already got it with Russia. You want to now accelerate it by going after China? I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. So that's one story I want to get to everybody. Another story I want to get to everyone, which is the story that Russia launched, and I want to make sure I get this right, a high-precision air-launched missile attack, according to the ministry spokesman, Igor Konashenkov, of a mercenary base, and this is from the Russian side. Just want to make it clear, this is from the Russian side. This is their statement, but this missile attack was launched on what they call a mercenary base in the region of Zhytomyr. In the region of Zhytomyr in Ukraine. That's a region which is northwest. So it's north and to the west. And according to the Russian military spokesperson, they killed over 100 mercenaries in that strike. So you have that as well. Another missile strike, once again, targeting what Russia calls mercenaries, targeting these people, these mercenaries, according to Russia. I'm sure that the collective West will say these were soldiers or these were a Ukraine military barracks. I don't know. But Russia claims over 100 killed. Once again, the message is being sent that any mercenaries that come into Russia, don't. If you're thinking of that coming to Ukraine, if you're thinking of coming into Ukraine to fight Russia, don't, because you will be eliminated. That's the message they're sending, in my opinion. Don't think about coming to Ukraine because there's going to be some glorious war, or there's going to be some glamour conflict or something like that. It's not. It looks like Russia is picking off these bases one by one, and they're sending a clear message. So That's a big development in the northwest of Ukraine. The northwest of Ukraine. Once again, another missile strike in the west. What does that tell you? We also have the news that Zelensky has decided to ban all political parties. So all political parties now in Ukraine have been suspended. And I want to make sure I get this quote right. According to the president, the National Security and Defense Council decided to give the full-scale war to suspend any activities of a number of political parties during martial law. So it looks like this democracy that we've been hearing about, called Ukraine, is now a one-party system. And Zelensky has banned all political parties, so most of the political parties. I think they're all of them. I looked at the list, it's pretty extensive. So that's been done as well. So that's Ukrainian democracy, everyone. I think he mentioned that this may be a temporary ban. So it's an interesting quote that he's saying this may be temporary. I believe that's what he said. But during martial law, all political parties are banned. And we have the news that one of the main political rival, Medvedchuk, actually escaped in-house arrest. So Zelensky put him in in-house arrest because this was his main political rival. And, this party that he was heading wanted a solution with Russia. They wanted to follow the Minsk Accords. They wanted dialogue with Russia, and they wanted to end the conflicts. And Zelensky actually imprisoned him and put him under house arrest. This was before the conflict broke out, way before the conflict broke out. So once again, that is Ukrainian democracy. They shut down Russian language media stations, and they put the leading opponent of Zelensky under house arrest. Once again, this was before the conflict broke out. Months and months before the conflict broke out. And now Zelensky is coming up with this order saying that there is going to be only one party in Ukraine. And finally, the final bit of news that I want to get to is you have the vice prime minister of Bulgaria has come out with a statement saying that Bulgaria will not renew their energy contracts with Gazprom, which are set to expire towards the end of 2022. And Bulgaria came out with a statement, and they said because of the conflict in Ukraine, we will not be renewing our energy contracts with Gazprom, and we're going to look for other energy sources via deals with Greece. I don't know what he's going to get from Greece, to be honest. They're going to look at the Middle East, and they're going to work with the European Union to figure out how to solve Bulgaria's energy needs. Now, I just want to be very, very clear. It's Vasiliev. Vasiliev is the deputy prime minister of Bulgaria. And I want to be clear. His statement, it sounds really good. It sounds, really tough from Bulgaria. And it shows, unity with the European Union. And I like how Bulgaria is saying we're going to cut off Russian gas. My opinion on this is as such. Putting on a brave face is Bulgaria and their deputy prime minister. But the truth is, this is just my opinion, that contract's going to run out. It's a 10-year long-term gas contract. It's running out at the end of 2022. Okay? Bulgaria and every other country in the European Union that has a long-term contract with Russia understands that when these contracts run out, Russia will not renew these contracts. Gazprom will not renew these contracts. It's not that the EU is breaking these contracts. It's that Gazprom will not renew these long-term contracts. They're just not going to do it. They're going to send all their energy, all the gas, they're going to send it east. They don't need to send it to Europe anymore. The interesting part is that Russia's going to honor their energy contracts. And you see that happening today. You have gas moving to Europe today. You have gas moving through Ukraine pipelines to Europe, and the Europeans are paying for that gas. And Russia is honoring those contracts because for Russia, they've always taken the philosophy of all contracts will be honored when it comes to energy. They never break their energy contracts. Even during the Soviet Union, they never broke their energy contracts. They always honored those contracts no matter what happened. And they're doing that today. They're still getting gas to Europe via Ukraine and via other pipelines, and they are not turning off the gas. But will they renew those contracts? Will they renew those deals? No. So when those long-term energy deals run out, Gazprom is simply not going to sit at the negotiating table. They're not going to pursue the customer base in Europe anymore, and they're just going to focus east. So, it's interesting to see the vice prime minister, the deputy prime minister of Bulgaria say, well, we're not going to renew those contracts because of what Russia is doing in Ukraine. But I believe the truth of the matter is when that 10-year long-term contract runs out in 2022, towards the end of 2022, the Russians are just going to say, all right, contract's done. We fulfilled our end of the deal. We're now looking east. And that's going to be that. And where Bulgaria is thinking of getting their energy, and every country in the EU, it's my guess and your guess. I have no clue how they're going to do it. They're running into terrible, terrible problems trying to find different energy sources. And since nuclear is not an option because of the Greens, well, what are they going to do? Go back to coal? Yeah, I don't think the Greens are going to be too happy about that either. Anyway, everybody, that's the second update for the day. And I think we had a lot of interesting news that we had to talk about. So I am going to grab an afternoon coffee now, and I'm going to get this video up. And theduran.locals.com, and check out Alexander's videos because he does really good. He's been doing great breakdowns as to what's going on between China and the U.S., Biden and Xi, because this may be really, really big. We may be heading towards a big crash. I hope we don't head towards that crash. And I hope someone puts the brakes on Biden, but who knows? Anyway, take care, guys.